The rain didn't begin with violence. It fell softly, a persistent, almost apologetic whisper over the emerald hills of southern China. A typical, even welcome, start to the monsoon. For days, it was a rhythm, a gentle drumming on tile roofs and broad banana leaves, a sound that had cradled generations. Farmers watched their paddies fill with a familiar contentment. Children traced patterns on fogged-up windows. It was the season's promise, the water that would give life. But promises can be broken. The whisper began to slur, its cadence changing from a gentle tap to a steady, insistent hiss. The sky, once a canvas of shifting grays, congealed into a single bruised mass of purple-black that sagged low, pressing the air out of the world. The whisper turned into a mumble, then a growl, and then, with a horrifying finality, a ceaseless, deafening roar. Clouds, stretched thin and tortured, finally cracked open. The skies gave way not with rain, but with a solid, liquid weight, as if the oceans of the heavens had been upended. And then, so did the earth. Southern China is now drowning. It is a slow, suffocating inundation under a sky that has forgotten the sun. Across the vast, undulating landscapes of Guangxi, Hunan, Guizhou, Yunnan, and Hubei, provinces stretched across ancient mountains and fertile valleys, the world is being remade in water and mud. This is not a flood, it is an erasure. Rivers, the arteries of the land, have become engorged, sickened things. They have burst their banks not in a single clean break, but in a chaotic, wholesale surrender of their channels. Entire landscapes, meticulously cultivated and lived in for centuries, have vanished under the crushing weight of the storm. What began as seasonal rain has metastasized into something monstrously complex, a simultaneous two-front war waged by the elements. It is an assault from above and below, floods swallowing the lowlands with breathtaking speed, while landslides tear down the heights with the terrifying force of gravity unleashed. The numbers are clinical, abstract, and fail to capture the terror. More than 27 major rivers and countless smaller tributaries have surged past their emergency water levels. In some townships, the water rose by over 3 meters in a matter of hours, a vertical ascent that defies belief. It was not a creeping tide, it was a wall of water, a liquid battering ram. Villages that once stood proudly beside these rivers are now, chillingly, inside them. The geography of memory is gone. Where a grandmother's house once stood, there is now only a swirling, debris-choked current. Where children played in a market square, there is a brown, silent sea. In Hunan, the destruction is absolute. Houses have simply disappeared, not just damaged or flooded, but obliterated. Not one wall left standing. They were not just inundated, they were scoured from their foundations, their bricks and timbers scattered for miles. Bridges, whether stone-arched relics of ancient dynasties or gleaming new constructs of steel and concrete, have been snapped like twigs, their sturdy piers dragged away as if by a petulant giant. Roads have turned to rivers. Rivers have become seas. The infrastructure of a nation, its carefully built skeleton, has proven to be appallingly brittle. But what is happening in the mountains is a deeper, more primal kind of terror. The ground, saturated beyond its breaking point, is beginning to let go. For days, it absorbed the deluge, the soil swelling like a sponge. Now, it can hold no more. The physics of this failure is simple, but its manifestation is the stuff of nightmares. In the high forests, the trees shiver, their roots losing their grip on the dissolving earth. Boulders, locked in place for millennia, begin to shift and grind. And then, with a low, guttural groan that travels through the soles of your feet, the earth breaks free. Landslides, some small muddy trickles, others vast, churning sheets the size of football fields, are sweeping down hillsides without warning. They are silent until they are upon you. Entire sections of winding mountain roads are being buried in seconds, a cascade of rock, mud, and splintered trees erasing the path in and the path out. In one county in Yunnan, a massive landslide, A literal piece of the mountain dammed a major river completely. The water, with nowhere to go, began to flood upstream, a silent, rising tide that crept into villages whose inhabitants were watching the river downstream, believing they were safe. They had no idea the threat was coming from behind them, and this is not a catastrophe confined to remote, rural outposts. In the sprawling vertical cities, the modern face of China, buildings have cracked and crumbled. In Guangdong province, a torrent of flash flooding, channeled by concrete streets, had the force of a tsunami. Entire homes on the city's edge were pulled from their foundations and thrown into raging waters, turning into deadly, tumbling projectiles. In Chongqing, a city famous for its dramatic, multi-layered landscape, the floodwaters climbed higher than balconies. Apartment blocks now stand half submerged, their lower floors filled with a murky, stagnant lake, ghostly and still. The vibrant life of the city has been replaced by an unnerving silence, broken only by the lapping of water against concrete. More than 400,000 people have already been forced to flee. A frantic, desperate exodus with whatever could be carried on their backs. But tens of thousands remain stranded, without power, without food, without clean water, without roads. They are isolated on newly formed islands, rooftops, the upper floors of buildings, small pockets of high ground that, for now, remain above the water. In the ink-black darkness of night, rescuers in assault boats navigate what were once city streets, their searchlights cutting feeble paths through the rain, bouncing off the facades of submerged buildings. They are searching for the missing, shouting names that are swallowed by the storm. In the gray light of morning, new landslides reveal fresh scars on the hills, erasing more homes, more hope. In some places, help is hours or even days away, not because of incompetence, but because the land itself is no longer there. There is no road to drive on, no ground to land a helicopter. The rain is not finished. This is the most terrifying fact of all. Meteorologists, speaking in clipped, urgent tones, are calling it a once-in-a-century storm system. It is not just the sheer volume of rain. Some areas have recorded over 400 millimeters in a single devastating 24-hour period. It is the relentless, grinding nature of it. There is no pause, no respite. Dams, the great symbols of China's power to tame its rivers, are overflowing. Their reservoirs are at critical levels, the water pressing against the concrete with unimaginable force. Officials are now facing the truly terrible choice to make controlled releases of reservoir water to prevent a catastrophic collapse. But that means even more water. A deliberate man-made flood is coming for the already drowning towns downstream. It is a chain reaction with no pause button, a domino effect of disaster. Water saturates the earth. The earth breaks and slides. Rivers swell and flood. Infrastructure collapses and isolates. And the skies, heavy and dark, still refuse to clear. The human cost is measured in losses that can never be recovered. Farmers have lost their entire season's crops, their livelihoods buried under a thick blanket of silt. Children have lost their schools, their playgrounds now submerged. Families have lost their homes, their photo albums, their heirlooms, their memories, their sense of safety. For them, this isn't weather, it's survival. This isn't a news story, it is the roaring water at their door. In the mountains of Hunan, roads leading into remote villages are buried under tons of mud and rock, cutting them off completely. In Guizhou, rescue teams, mud-caked and exhausted, probe the debris of collapsed houses with long poles, listening for any sound, any sign of life from those believed to be buried alive. In Longshan County, floodwaters surged with incredible speed into a subterranean parking garage. 3 people didn't make it out. In the tourist city of Zhangjiajie, an elderly couple who had lived their entire lives in a small house by the river disappeared in the night. Their home is gone, leaving only a muddy hole. Their names have been added to the ever-growing list of the missing. China has faced natural disasters before, It is a land of epic floods and earthquakes. But this feels different. This is something else. This is the ground itself betraying its people. This is the water reclaiming the land, not gently, not seasonally, but with a vicious, violent assertion of dominance. This is climate chaos made manifest, a theoretical danger that has become a waking human tragedy. Officials have raised the emergency alerts to their highest levels. Red warnings, the color of blood and fire, have been issued across the south. But for the millions of people still in the path of this unfolding catastrophe, alerts and warnings are not enough. What they need is rescue. What they need is relief. What they need is a break from the sky. Yet the forecast brings no hope. The models show the same weather patterns locked in place. The rains will continue. And with every drop, another hillside grows heavier. Another river rises higher. Another bridge strains against its moorings. Another village holds its breath. This is not just a storm. This is not just a season. This is a catastrophe written in water and mud. And the worst, the truly unthinkable, may still be ahead.